Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome to Return to the Mother World Ancient Feminine Wisdom in Times of Transition Summit, where we honor the Great Mother and explore the ways of the old and how these ways can support us in these incredibly important, beautiful, but also challenging times of change. This is Emmi Murtal. I am your host and the creatrix of this summit. And I am super excited to be sitting here today with my beautiful friend, mentor, and colleague, Sharon King. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Emmy, and hello, everybody.
Great. It's lovely to have you with us, Sharon. And I cannot wait to delve into our discussion and see where our conversation is going to take us today. But before we do that, I wanted to introduce you to everybody in case we have people in the audience who are not familiar with your work yet. So Sharon King is an international trainer of energy psychology techniques for transforming trauma and living a more joyful, connected, and empowered life. One of her specialties is working with pre and perinatal birth trauma for both mother and baby. As a best-selling author, Sharon shares her extensive knowledge in her books, Heal Your Birth, Heal Your Life, and co-author of Return to the Mother World. Her training is extensive, with qualifications and experience in holistic healing modalities and creating her own Heal Your Birth and the Light Matrix techniques, which are beautiful and powerful techniques, by the way, for transforming ancestral patterns, past lives, discovering your life purpose, and manifesting the life of your dreams. Wonderful. Well, Sharon, I would love to start by asking you, what does the mother world mean to you personally, based on all the work that you do and based on your own experiences?
Wow, that's a great question. So, in my experience and in the experience that I've had with clients, is the mother is the center, the linchpin, the center of the family, if you like. And we are so connected to our mothers in so many different ways, including Mother Earth. But as babies in utero, our perceptions of the world are through our mother. So those very early years, or that time in utero, you are being, I guess, programmed, if you like, on how the outside world is through the perceptions of your mother. So if your mother's like feeling safe, if she's feeling happy, joyful, in a loving relationship, then that's going to create a foundation for you, for your baby, as being a trusting, safe to be in this world person, because the baby's not able to separate themselves out from the perceptions of the mother. And then obviously as we grow up, yes, the fathers have an impact on how the family dynamics are held together, if you like, but it's the mother that everybody turns to for a sense of security, a sense of safety, of being here. Or if your mum's not feeling safe in the world, then that has an impact on you in a negative way as well, and you don't feel safe to be here in this world. And everything you see around you is not safe, or it's safe depending on your perceptions of the world. So for me, being part of the feminine, loving, nurturing energy is so super incredibly powerful, but absolutely pivotal to how we respond to the world.
Yeah, that is so very true. And I always think about my own experiences of pregnancy and how my kids have turned out, and seeing a real difference between my son and my daughter as well. Because when I was pregnant with my son, this was my first full-term pregnancy, and I remember feeling very unsupported, feeling very alone, and having this anxiety within me a lot of the time. And my son is a lot less trusting of the world. He has a lot of insecurities himself. And my daughter, my second child, during that pregnancy, I was much more confident. I knew exactly what to expect. I was, in a very, good mood most of the time, and feeling very happy most of the time as well. And my daughter is a very different person from my son, and much more outgoing, much more confident herself in many, many ways. And although, and I think you're going to expand on this, Sharon, as well. It's not about feeling guilty about how our pregnancy was and
No.
how we were feeling at the time, but it's just really interesting to observe those differences and then also find ways in which we can support our kids, especially in the early years, with the unique patterns that they are exhibiting already at that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not only our time in utero, but our birth experience and our bonding experience is so critical to who we are and the patterns that it sets up in our life and the relationships that we go on to have, or the relationships we attract to ourselves. So, you know, one of the first questions I will ask a man if I'm getting to know him is like, what's your relationship like with your mother?
Right.
Because that's how you tell, you know, how they treat their mother is how that's their perception. Because as children, our mum and our dad are the masculine and feminine parts of our world. You know, that's our mother world. The mother, that's our father. Um, so how we perceive them, their relationship with each other, but their relationship with us is how we then go on to form our relationships with other people and to be trusting of that relationship and having loving, nurturing relationships, or attracting into your life an abusive relationship. So yeah, oh, it's just so important that that we realize, or I think it's almost being bred out of us, or not, it's not no longer in our education about how important it is that time of conception, pregnancy, birth, and those first few years of really that family bond, that connection. And it affects our own feminine energy. I know certainly for myself that, you know, seeing my mum as this person as being weak within a relationship, of being needy, of being sick, I suppressed my feminine energy, and I became a right tomboy because I could see my dad as being the strong, you know, warrior person, and that's what I wanted to be, because I didn't want to be that weak feminine role model that I had. So yeah, it's taken some work, but I'm now fully, or stepping more into my feminine energy.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that, Sharon, as well. And you mentioned the point of conception there. And I'm
Mm.
just really curious about that miraculous, magical moment when our soul, so to speak, enters the 3D
Yes,
reality. I would love to hear a
yes.
little bit more about your perspective on this.
Well, it's interesting because some cultures believe that the soul doesn't enter the body or the connection with the baby until 3 months in utero, and some believe it happens afterwards with that first breath. But my experience is totally different to that. Is when I guide people back and we go back to that point of conception, there is a connection. There is consciousness there right at the beginning, and how that conception happens, and the thoughts, feelings, emotions of mom, the thoughts, feelings, emotions of dad are all super important to how that conception goes. Now, I was fascinated to see there's a video on YouTube that if you put flash of light at conception, you'll actually see in a test tube when they put the sperm and the egg together, there is a poof of light created at a big bang, if you like, it created at that time. So if that conception is not pleasurable, the baby's not planned, not wanted, and then mum finds out she's pregnant, and then goes through that, oh my God, what is this going to mean to my life? Then to that baby, it could be a life-threatening situation, which will affect how that baby continues to develop. They may not want to be seen, so they may hide in the back of the womb because they feel like if I'm seen, I might be terminated. Um, but there's this loving relationship where there is this conscious conception, this kind of like calling the baby, the soul, the the planning, the doing the work on yourself so you can be the best version of yourself that you can be in that moment, because we all evolve. um then that baby, that moment of conception is going to be like a welcoming to the world, as opposed to it's fearful, I don't want to be seen. And one of the other things, I was speaking to a client today who's angry at God because she feels like she was kicked out of source, and that she's a victim and she's been sent here, and she didn't want to come and she didn't want to be here, and this isn't what she signed up for. And then when we started doing some work, she realized that actually she'd just forgotten why she came, and all these experiences that she has had, including she chose her mum and dad. She chose them. And we tend to think, oh no, we didn't, we just happened to fall into this womb. That's not how it works. That's not how I believe it works anyway. We choose our parents. Our soul has the choice of why we're coming here, what we want to do. And that includes the parents and the experiences we have. And as I've written about in the book, including our in utero and birth experience, can also help us become the person that we are here to be. It can be part of our life purpose or life mission even. That early on, certainly for myself, it set up my life mission to help people heal their birth traumas and heal from separation after birth, or if they're in a toxic womb, because they were all my own birth experiences.
Yeah, that is super, super fascinating. And I love that moment of light at
Yes,
that point of conception. I mean, we were literally living light, living
we
vibration.
are. We
Mm,
are. And one of the most powerful things that I love to do with clients is, if they've picked a mother that they really don't connect with, that they don't feel safe with, is to take them, even as a baby, when they're connecting with their baby self, to look inside the heart and find that spark of white light. And
mm,
we all have that spark of white light within us. This is our soul connection within our heart. So that light has to be there. If that light's not there, that light goes out when our soul leaves the body.
mm.
So
Yeah.
if you can get somebody's baby self in utero to connect back with source, with their higher mind, their higher self, whatever word you want to use for it, it doesn't then really matter so much about their relationship with mother. It's that connection back to source, to the divine feminine, whatever word you want to use for it. So yeah, reconnecting back to that source energy is, I believe, the whole reason why we come here. We forget why we come here, and then we work towards remembering why we come here. And if you can remember that, almost, if you can go back in time and help your baby self remember why she came here, it makes a massive difference to who you are and
Yeah,
how you feel.
absolutely. And so very empowering at the same time.
Yeah.
You talked about the fact that we choose our parents before we are actually conceived into these 3D bodies in these lifetimes. And that kind of like alludes to the fact that we come and go, that we are
Yes.
reborn, rebirthed a number of times potentially onto planet Earth and potentially elsewhere as well. And I would love to hear your perspective on how our past lives can also impact our current lives.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, she says, trying to. I worked with a lady who wanted to have a little girl. She had three boys, and she did give birth to a little girl, but sadly that baby died. And she desperately wanted another girl, or she wanted to have a daughter. So when we were working together, we went back into this past life where she discovered that the husband that she has now was her husband back then in this other lifetime. And he had only wanted he had wanted her to have a son, to carry on the family name. And it was so important to him that she has a son, that every time she kept giving birth to daughters, he would kill the baby.
Right.
So recorded in her subconscious and even in her DNA is this remembrance that having daughters is not safe and they're going to die if you have a daughter. So we did some beautiful session work around clearing all of that for her. And within months, she got pregnant again, and she went on to have a beautiful little girl. So yeah, it's just giving me goosebumps just thinking about it. So, you know, we're at that time of conception, we are so connected with our past life selves as well. But my perception of the past life stuff that we bring into this lifetime is that any trauma that we have that's unresolved, this is what we are currently working through. So whether it's a past life trauma or a this life trauma, if that trauma hasn't come to some form of resolution, it's going to set up a pattern that keeps repeating itself until we clear that pattern, until we heal that pattern. And what I've also recently come to understand by working with my own past life selves is the concept of ghosts or earthbound energies, earthbound spirits. I believe, I'm beginning to understand now, that those aspects of our other lifetime selves, our past lifetime selves, they're because the trauma was unresolved, the pattern continues and they're stuck in this continual loop. So one of the things that I do now with a past life self is take them straight up into the light matrix. And the light matrix to me is like returning back to that source energy. It's where we came from. So when you take that past life self back, it's like doing spirit release. You're bringing it from that's stuck in this loop, in this life, in this density, if you like, this 3D earth density, and we're taking them back to whatever density it is that we come from, whether it's 5D, 6D, 12D, I'm not sure. But we go back into that higher frequency and quite often, reunite people with their partners or their loved ones. And that it's almost that is the healing of the trauma, is that reconnection back to our family. But also that part of us is still worrying around doing the trauma thing. So once you heal that part of your consciousness can come into your body too, and you become more whole.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And I've experienced light matrix work myself. I've been trained by you in that as well. And it is such a beautiful, potent process to use on yourself and to work with clients as well. So thank you for creating and birthing this into the world, Sharon. It's so very important. Now, Sharon, you mentioned family there. And what I love about this kind of work that you and I do is that through these ancestral connections, generational connections, we know that gifts and trauma are both passed on generation to generation. And we also know that when our mothers were inside the wombs of their own mothers, we would have existed in egg form inside our mothers' wombs already. So we would have taken on not just our mother's energy, but our grandmother's energy as well. And through this patterning, we essentially go all the way back to the very beginning of humankind, to the very original humans on Mother Earth. And that to me is just both beautiful and mind-blowing at the same time. And again, I would love to hear from you, Sharon, in terms of generational patterns that we can and hold on to, and how we can work with those in our own lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that my own personal example of that was falling in love with a man when I was 26. Unfortunately, he was killed. He was the love of my life. It was one of those love at first sight experiences. And it took me many years to heal from that trauma, but it was the biggest gift. And one of the gifts is I realized that actually it was my mother's and my grandmother's pattern of like falling in love with somebody, losing that partner, settling for second best. And and I kind of feel like that probably also went back further as well, but I don't know any information about my grandmother's mother, but that probably went back quite a few family, down the feminine line, the maternal line. So that when we realize that my brain's going in so many different directions here, I can talk about the science, I can talk about clients, I can talk about myself. When we realize that the whole concept of the generations is evolution, that's what I'm trying to say, is that each ancestral is an evolution of the last ancestor, and we get better and we better and better, and we evolve. So again, it's about those unhealed traumas and bringing those ancestors in. And again, I use the light matrix for that, bringing those ancestors in once you've identified the pattern, and doing a group healing for your ancestors is so powerful. And what it also does is it ends the cycle going forwards into the next generations. So it's so powerful when we can do that. When you think about, okay, so this is not going to be passed on to my children, and if somebody already has a child, then we bring those children into the healing of the ancestral patterns. But one of the super exciting thing is I've also discovered that sometimes, not all the time, but a lot of the time, we are our ancestor. We can be our great grandmother that's come back again to heal whatever pattern it is that's left unresolved in that lifetime, and to move forwards, in a more lighter way, which I believe that we're all doing right now.
Goosebumps. And that is, just such pivotal information, understanding, and knowing to have in these times of transition that we are in. And so very important for all of us to realize that we all have not just a responsibility to do our own healing work, but the capacity to do this healing work through these amazing, incredible methods that exist out there, and that we can truly heal not just ourselves, but the patterns that exist in our families, in our lineages, and past life patterns as well. And that is just so beautiful and so empowering. And Sharon, for our audience, some of whom who might be new to the kinds of themes that we're discussing here, what would you advise as kind of like the first step to take when we want to start exploring these kinds of themes for ourselves?
I would recommend actually reading my first book, Heal Your Birth, Heal Your Life, because it's very grounded. There's a lot of science information in there, which explains, the concept that you've just said about the egg part of us that's inside our mother, inside her mother, our grandmother, and how the trauma gets passed on through the baby, or through the genes rather, from both the father and the mother, how both the father and the mother affect the baby and what's going on in their lives. So that would be my first step. To experience actually connecting with your baby self, and a little bit of experience of that, then there is a free meditation that is associated with this, that is with myself, just taking you on a guided journey back into either utero or working with your baby self after birth. This is not a time to be looking at your birth, because sometimes it can be big trauma, high trauma, and you need to do that with a practitioner. But as a beginning, to just connect with your baby self either in utero or after birth, or do the meditation multiple times and keep going back to different stages, and speak to your baby self, have a conversation, find out from your baby self what it was like to be in utero, what it was like to be, coming into this womb, what it was like to be born and coming into the world even. It's not going to take you deep into the trauma of things. And at the end of the meditation, then after you've connected and bonded with your baby self, then you start bonding with the earth and tuning into the earth energy and just feeling that support from Mother Gaia. So those would be the two things that I would say to get you started. And of course, you know, if you want to dive in and roll your sleeves up, then you can contact me and we can absolutely do some sessions on anything that resonates with you of what we've spoken about as well. So and also I'm going to be putting together a very short, probably a 4-part series where people can attend and we can explore. You know, I can share the knowledge that I have. People can talk about their experiences, whether you're a mother giving birth or your own birth experience. I can share education, go through a few little processes. That's the word I'm looking for. Go through some processes. So that also would be a nice introduction. So just, yeah, check those out on my website. And if the light matrix really lights you up, then I will also be setting some dates to run another light matrix course. And you don't need to be a practitioner for that one. You can just rock up for that one. And again, it's all part of education, exploring processes as a group, as individuals.
That's so beautiful, Sharon. Thank you for all that you do. I mean, there's so much yumminess in what you offer, and you are such a wonderful teacher as well. So I'm really encouraging everybody to check out Sharon's website, and the link will be in the notes below this video as well. And Sharon, just to clarify, this baby self meditation that you mentioned, that is your gift to our audience, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Now,
You're
Sharon, before we
welcome.
start wrapping up, I would love to hear from you if there's anything else that's kind of arising in this moment that you feel is really, really important to share with everybody.
Well, one of the things I always think that I'm going to mention at the beginning, and I always forget, so I always put it in at the end, is any women that have given birth already, and I know you kind of touched on this as well, but one of my favorite sayings is, we are always doing the best we can with the knowledge and understanding we had at the time. So please don't feel guilty. Because you were doing the best you could, the birth professionals are doing the best they could, your child being born is doing the best they can, and if it's triggering your own birth experiences, then again, your mother was doing the best she could with the knowledge and understanding she had. So yeah, it's all perfectly imperfect and imperfectly perfect.
That's it. Absolutely. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you have shared with us. And again, thank you for who you are and thank you for all that you do. Really, really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Emmi, and thank you for putting on this summit. It's really amazing.
Blessed be. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a beautiful rest of your day.